I'll think it was a touchscreen.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So welcome everyone and Happy New Year to everyone. This is our first meeting in the 2023 year. It's our first one, January 18th, 1 o'clock. And welcome Chrissy and Ashley. And Jeremy and Scott. You're important too. We're going to approve the agenda unless anyone has any questions or concerns about it.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 3, I would like to welcome Commissioner Jack Edmonds. And congratulations.
Yep.
I know you fought a tough fight.
Yeah. It all worked out.
Congratulations, Jack.
A little hairy, but
And Mr. Chair, if I may, again, we brought Ashley in. She started yesterday. She's a new billing clerk, so I just wanted to have her meet the commission, but I do know she's got some learning to do. So
Yes.
she wasn't planning on staying the whole meeting, but I wanted to make sure she had an opportunity to meet everybody.
Sure. And again, welcome.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you guys. I'm sure I'll be seeing you.
made her second day, it can't be too bad.
With the elections, you may have to postpone that a little bit until there's 3 of us here. Because I'm not going to vote.
Let's see. Yeah.
I mean, we can go down to the public comment.
Oh, I understand. I guess what I would recommend is. Oh, never mind. Dan's here. So.
Sorry.
Okay, number 4, we need to fill some officers' shoes. The chairman, we need to start with that, and then a vice president. Any ideas, concerns, comments?
I've been around, well, between Leah and now, what, about 3 or 4 years, I guess. Their history has been they just rotated every year, but I don't think that's written anywhere, so I don't know.
Yeah?
Well, I mean, I haven't done it yet. I mean, I'm open to it. So I guess being the chair, so
Do you need formal nominations then, or how do you?
Well, I just want to say too, I enjoy it. What I find is, Dan, you and I talked about this before, that your first or second year just being a commissioner, it takes that long to understand that and the workings of everything. I kind of feel that way being my first year as a chair. So I'm not opposed to following through with the second year, but you guys, we all can do what we want to do.
I don't know, I mean, for me personally, there's nothing personal with anybody. If we stay with the tradition, then Dan would be next in line, I guess. I don't know that we don't have to stay with it. I don't see any reason to not stay with it either. I'm
yeah.
on the fence.
Yeah, to me, it's not, it's just running the meetings mostly, but I don't know, maybe it's.
And the invoices and signing. And I come here about an hour early at every meeting to do that.
Yeah.
So it takes a little more time, but
It does.
nothing. An hour, they can usually get through them,
Yeah.
depending upon how many there are.
Yeah. You know, the other thought that I had too is, you know, having whoever's term is up, you know, maybe being if they were chair before their term was up, but then I don't know if that really matters that much.
Well, and I thought of that
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
that I think it's a strong point for
If
the
they-
commission that term is up,
Mhm.
represent the chair. I mean, it's
Right.
putting weight on the side of the commissioner,
Mhm.
I feel.
But then this last time there was,
Yeah, I mean, if nobody
not-
is running,
I don't
then,
know how many years, unless there's big controversy, there's not a lot of interest in,
Right.
in being on this commission, really. There's been years they had a hard time finding people to do this.
I've never heard in my time any rationale for doing the rotation, it's just what they did, maybe.
Yeah,
They're 3-year term, and 3 people, so what you say, maybe
yeah.
was part of it. So
I've just said,
every
I've kind of,
shared that.
yeah. And then when, Mindy was on and the other, before, I've just said no, because, but I also said the last time that I'd stop saying no. So I'm gonna stick with my word on that, so.
Yeah, and the chair is obviously running the meetings and then doing some of the signature, I guess.
It's kind of, the way I look at it, it's kind of up to you, Jack, because
On the spot.
because you're the new guy. No, we're really gonna put you on pressure.
I just got appointed to a full 3-year term, so I guess, looking at my future at serving here, I would probably want to do at least 1 year myself,
Yeah,
not this year, next, or whatever, but, one of the 3 years, I would,
I guess one of the things that I have in the back of my head here is when Jack walked in, I said he's got to figure out a way how to pick what hat he's wearing, because he's
Yeah.
so differently involved. And then you yourself.
Mhm.
So
right,
in some ways, I feel I'm taking the pressure off you a little bit because this is my only position.
Right.
And you guys have multiple positions.
yeah.
So I just offer that for that
Right.
reason. I don't know how awkward it would be to be a council member, the liaison, and the commissioner, and the chair.
well, the council member, just in general, has a little more than on the planning commission, which is not a lesser city position, but the council is the final decider, makes the final decision, so it's a more out there hat, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I, of course, trust me, when I got into this arena here, and ran for, that all went through me, but on the other side of it, I actually did go through a position similar to that at the county level for 1 year. And the person that's really put on the spot is the individual that's doing it. Because then I've got a set of priority, but in my mind, the priority today is here. Thursday night is there.
Mhm.
But there's gonna be situations where I'm gonna be hanging out there to dry. And I knew that.
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
going into it.
yeah.
And I still chose to do it, so.
So Jack, as a council member, do you plan on filling the shoes of the liaison or
Well,
somebody
we
else?
didn't fill it, and nothing was said either way in that regard.
Mhm.
The only comment that was made, and I made it, was we now have a seated commissioner, plus Michelle is pretty much have meetings. So how many people do we need there?
Yeah.
That's the comment I made.
Yeah,
So then at that point,
Yeah, yeah.
Tom just said, well, let's just leave it vacant for now.
Well, and you did it, well, because Jules was the liaison.
Right.
Yeah.
And I took his place. So I don't want to be in the spot.
I think it's gonna put you in an awkward position to be the
Well,
liaison
and-
and the chair and a council
Well,
member
I
and a
guess,
commissioner. That's a lot.
I
of
guess I
hats.
don't think so, because I think I can make the separation. But again, there's bound to be somewhere in this 3-4 year period, there's bound to be a time when I'm sitting here saying, oh my God, what did I do this for?
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen, you know it.
That's,
Yeah, well.
that's every
But it doesn't
position
have
for
to
the
be,
city.
it doesn't have to be an in general thing. It shouldn't. I don't like drawing. I went through 2 years of it, trust me. If we're gonna break it down to, I know Dan's a very busy man, especially in the summertime. Perhaps, I'm not putting words in your mouth, Dan. Do you
No,
want that
the
extra responsibility?
the reason I'm late is because I was busy with, you know.
The three things I see the chairman does above and beyond is you run the meetings, of course, first. You do the signatory stuff, which takes some extra time, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And then you're the public face. You go with Keith to hold the checkup and get a picture.
Yeah,
But any of us can, but usually it's the chair.
yeah.
Those are the three, as far as we're all equal beyond that.
And I'll be missing some meetings this winter. I'll be out of town. So, I mean, there's that. Not that I can't be in on them, but you're not supposed to chair a meeting unless you're present. So, there was that. But,
I have no, if we take a formal motion and I'll move to appoint Rick. Do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go?
is that your motion then?
Well, I can make, I guess I'll withdraw it for the second. Do you want to do it?
Do we have a motion or not?
Well, I'm going to withdraw it.
Okay.
I shouldn't put it quite, I didn't want to frame it quite that way. I wanted more further discussions when it was.
I guess what I'm hearing is that you guys are very busy.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to, I would have no issue with that myself, but I'm not, I think it's between you and him, myself.
Yeah, your first year, even though you're familiar with everything.
So what do I have left on my, what do I have?
You're just reappointed.
So I
You
have
got 2 full years.
2 more years?
Yeah.
And I'll have to read Rick will be
I
up.
mean, I would like to do it before my term is up. But if you're saying you feel like you just haven't had enough time in it.
Well, I think that's part of it, but then the other thing, it's the relationships that when Keith calls and the information that is shared and discussed and whatnot on how all of this is working and that really helps that bond to help communicate.
Yeah.
And I have more time, to when Keith calls, I'm able to pretty much answer and communicate right away. So for those things, that's why I'm throwing my hat in the ring.
Is this a situation where a 5-person commission might be better?
If that's the only reason, that's not a good reason.
Yeah.
Since you have 1 more year left, Dan. Two more years, I'm sorry, 2 more years. I'm gonna go ahead and say we stick with Rick another year.
Okay, I'll second
And then-
it. If that's your motion, I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, we have
That's
first and a
also a
second.
motion.
We have first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. And we have the same question on the vice chair.
Then I will move to appoint Dan as the vice chair.
I'll second. Can I second that?
You want to second yourself?
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah, I can second that.
First and a second on vice chair, Dan Erickson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. C, I don't know about you guys or not, but I've never seen the secretary and treasurer listed. What I've seen in the past is the secretary, and we've appointed the secretary. But to my knowledge, we've never appointed appointed the treasurer. So-
Is it one and the same?
Pardon me?
Is it one and the same, or is it two
No, well,
different
the two-
positions? Or-
They're definitely two different jobs, for sure. But I've never seen them, as long as I've been a commissioner, both listed, we've always appointed a secretary.
So to give a little bit of background, so when this came up, I started to talk to Kathy about it a little bit. She had mentioned that she is the secretary and treasurer, which ever since I've come on board has always been referred to as the secretary. So I asked her about that, and she said that she was appointed secretary and treasurer a long time ago. And so she plays in that, she fulfills that role. The chair is correct in that in none of the agenda or minutes has it, at least since I've been here, hasn't said secretary and treasurer, but that has been kind of the default of what has happened. So in order to make everything explicit so everybody knows what's going on, I did have Kathy or we did change the agenda to list it as both secretary and treasurer, which means that she's a signatory on our accounts. She handles the deposits. She helps pay all the bills in that treasurer role. It just, it had not been included in past agendas. And I don't know why, but I wanted to make sure that everything was transparent in what people are doing.
Okay. Makes sense.
But if we haven't technically referred to her as a treasurer, she does handle a lot of the monetary stuff. So who better to wear that title than her use?
Right, I don't think that's the question. I think to fulfill the obligation that we have as commissioners, that we should be appointing two positions. Now, if it's one person that's doing that, that's fine, but I don't believe we've ever appointed a treasurer for that given year. And correct me, Chrissy, are you were the manager of the office, correct?
Yes.
And then, just as these two fine gentlemen are here, are you going to be attending each monthly meeting? And to represent and give?
Yes, sir. My thought was, I have a senior leadership team. We meet once a week, and that senior leadership team is comprised of Jeremy, Scott, and Chrissy.
Okay.
And so, both of the superintendents, I think, give the commission good information as to what we're doing out in the field. I think the commission would find value in also hearing from what's going on in the office and with the customer interface there as well. So I think having the full senior leadership team at each commission meeting would be of value to
And I would wholeheartedly agree with that, and I would welcome you on a regular basis to attend these. That's awesome. That's great. For this meeting, Mr. Butcher, could you take the minutes?
Yes, sir.
And then let's discuss that and maybe come back to that next meeting? Is that reasonable?
Let's discuss what the secretary treasurer is.
Well, who would we like to see? Do we want one person? Do we want two people? Do we want, if Chrissy's going to be here and Kathy's not going to be here, is Chrissy going to take minutes, or are you going to take minutes? And it's not verbatim, what Kathy's been doing is taking, the shorthand type of thing, marking down who's done, who said what, who first, second, and that type of thing.
Right, as long as, obviously we have a recording, but there's got to be a backup, in case that shuts off or something, I guess. So
Yeah, well, and that's something else to consider. I mean,
Yeah.
so if, I don't, if Chrissy's position is multi-purposed, where she's gonna give a report and take minutes, and Greg's not here, who's gonna be responsible for that? That brings up a great point. So now, even that one person is wearing two different hats. And I don't know your background as far as the depth of turning that on or off, or taking minutes, or, or anything like that, but I've done it on many different occasions, and it's just not that difficult.
I'll just share with you my perspective and how I've seen
Sure,
organizations.
please.
operate. The secretary role is the person that's responsible for making sure the minutes get taken, not that they necessarily take the minutes. So if you appoint somebody as a secretary who's here, it doesn't mean they necessarily are taking all the notes. They might assign that to somebody else. They just make sure that there's somebody there who knows that that's their job to do. So the secretary, and I always refer to it as a capital S secretary, not a small s secretary. It's their responsibility to make sure that the records are kept and they're organized and uniform. So you can, in lots of cases, a secretary might be appointed from the commission itself. Some boards do that. Again, it doesn't mean that they're taking the notes. They just make sure that the system is in place to ensure that it is properly recorded.
So is it possible that we would, could appoint, if we're gonna split this into two, we could appoint Chrissy as secretary and Kathy as treasurer then, or is it?
It's very possible.
I mean, is that, yeah, I don't know, what, is that too much staff? Would they have to all be here? I mean, I'm just,
No, not the treasurer.
okay, I just don't, you know, you have to have so much staff here that.
Well, I mean, that's the reason this came up is I do feel having the senior leadership team at the disposal of the commission is important. I didn't want to, we are meeting during normal business hours. I didn't want to leave the office short-staffed.
Right.
Especially with Ashley being only 2 days old, as far as
Yeah,
the
right.
organization perspective.
I mean, if that will work for keeping the staff, where we can only have one here, we can appoint both, but just one of them here, you know, whoever it needs to be, I guess.
The commission has that discretion.
I don't know. I like to get things done, so.
Oh.
We can get it done today, let's get it done today.
Well, then I would have to ask that question. Are you comfortable with that, Chrissy?
I can be.
I guess
So,
the secretary doesn't have to physically be here. You get Keith to take notes or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I would probably not want any of the leadership team to have that role myself. I would go with just leaving Kathy in both positions. She's gonna be probably doing the heavy lifting anyway back in the office as far as making sure they get printed out.
Yeah, we're a small office,
Yeah.
we all chip in.
Does it matter?
Well, she has.
You just have to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
She has
I'm
the
just wondering.
recording, she has the recording and Keith will take notes or someone to do the minutes.
So with that comment, Jack, then Kathy is not here. Is that right?
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
We don't, the secretary doesn't have to physically be at the meeting. That's what I'm hearing.
And she, I mean, if she's there now, is she watching this?
She will watch it afterwards
Yeah.
to take,
So
to read the minutes.
then that's, sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then with his, probably his notes, I'm guessing.
Like you said, just in case there was a problem.
Yeah.
But she's gonna watch the video, and that's what she does when she does the minutes.
So what I'm hearing then is just keep it the status quo, but we officially appoint Kathy to secretary and treasurer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is that-
I mean, she's already the treasurer.
Yeah.
That's her role. To appoint someone else to that without that background, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
We need a formal.
Which is how we have been operating.
That's how we have been, is that the way, being that it's two positions, is that the way it should be? Just because we have been doesn't mean it's.
That's why I spawned the question, you know.
Right, you know.
To ask that.
Yeah.
I would say most of the time I see it split, but when you're dealing with a small commission, you only have 3 members. It's not uncommon for the secretary and treasurer to be a member of staff. It really, you can go either way. It's really what you guys think makes the most sense for this organization.
I would not
Because
suggest that
if
it's.
we were to appoint one of us as secretary treasurer,
I
then
don't-
we would just delegate who is responsible for that.
If one of you, so the way it typically works is, say, okay, so Rick's chair, your vice chair, you make Jack secretary. Typically what happens is we still have a staff member assigned to put together the packets, put together the
Yeah.
minutes. Before the minutes go out in the packet, it goes to the secretary reviews it and says, yes, I do the first, they do the first check to make sure the minutes are accurate. They say, yep, they send it off, the commission fully approves it, and then it's the secretary that signs the minutes and saying, this is the official document of what transpired on the meeting day. That is,
Because that's usually what I've seen as one of the commission members or one of the board members is usually the secretary.
that's usually what I see as well.
My only problem, and I'll just voice this, and you guys can do what you want to do, but when I've been a secretary and the member or on the board, I'm doing this, and then hold on, wait, and then I couldn't gather my own thoughts because I'm just writing this down and I'm trying to keep up. I think the commission should always be 100% able to listen and understand and move forward with those thoughts in mind.
And what I've seen is the secretary is to review the notes afterwards to make sure that's what they remember. They aren't taking notes during the meeting. So classic example I use is like the Secretary of Defense of the United States. Secretary of Defense isn't taking notes at his meetings. He's got people that does that, but he's a capital S secretary. And he's an officer of the department at that point. Again, it's whatever the commission wants to do. It's your discretion.
You know, we're a pretty close-knit organization here. We have the leadership team is all here. There's enough backup to what goes on at the meeting for Kathy to do her job. You know, just say after the fact, not after the fact, but she doesn't need to be present. And I have no issue with keeping the two positions in our case, as they're set right now. One person with two positions, with holding both positions. That's where I'm at with this.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy as the secretary treasurer.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Number 5, public comment. Have we heard from anyone?
I have not.
Okay, then we're going to keep moving forward to the consent agenda. If there's no questions on that, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
No, second it.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Updates, Mr. Linden.
Yes, since our, since our last meeting, the elections department has been working on inventory. That is completed. I'm just putting together the final numbers. The guys are working on taking down the declarations today. That's going well. They should be done today. I've had a couple of MMUA trainings. We have gotten a couple of the guys prepped, finish up some hydrants, cleaning out of the hydrants. A couple weeks ago, we had one, with the last snowfall, we had one flickering light complaint out east of town. They removed a couple of branches from the power line, and they told the guy to call back if it continued. He didn't call back, so that was it. That's the only major complaint with the weather. Otherwise, we've had no other outages or anything like that. Continue to work on the CIP plan with DGR, and I've been working with a couple of local developers, helping them get some costs and prices together for a few developments that are coming in the spring. So just some small ones, the one right over here in Meadowview, helping them trying to get some budgetary numbers together for his stuff. Other than that, just normal everyday stuff. So, yeah.
What's a piggyback label? Does anyone know? It was on one of the invoices with AMI, and it was like $5,000. Just the, yeah. I just thought you might know right off the bat because it was with the AMIs.
Was it the relay?
I'd have to look.
They're like $100 a piece, and you bought 50 of them.
Well, that'd be the nose, right?
You know,
The what?
that'd be the actual load for the water.
Yeah,
Half of
just
the
had
water.
piggyback label, so.
Yeah,
No
piggyback.
big deal. I just
So it's the register has the, what we're calling the register, it's your dial, and that runs up and plugs into the node, which would be that part that we just ordered some more of them. That's what sends the signal, gathers the information back, and relays that back to through the system.
Okay. It may just be a code that's in their computer system that,
Some of that stuff is we call it one thing and then
Somebody
they call it
call it
another. So I did just
manufacturer.
order some more nodes.
It might be just an old-fashioned pigtail electrical connector. So,
Well, they're-
that might be worth
it's
it.
$100 each, so,
Those would be the nodes.
Yeah.
okay.
Those are the,
We did just place an order for them, so
yeah.
that'd be the one.
All right, Mr. Schmidt, water power plant.
Power plant, we test monthly run on unit 7. Run good. We're still working with Ziegler on the coolant leak that doesn't seem to be there now, so we're continuing to monitor that portion of it, and then we're still working on starters. We've gone through like 3 sets of starters. We just can't get a good set of. They've had new and rebuilt, and they've been continually to work on that. We put them on and try test running, and we're just not getting a good result. So the old ones on there are still chugging along, but they're starting to get weak. So we're trying to get a good new set sourced on there, and they've been working with us on that. Jim spent quite a bit of time pulling together reports and semi-annual, annual reports for air permits type stuff there, gathering that information. And then we got the inventory taken care of. Water side, continuing on meter changeouts, up to 82.5% or 82 and something change here. We're putting a few in every day. It's a little slower through the holiday season here. We're pushing quite as hard, but just a busy time for people. So we've been going every day with them. There's always a few to go in every day, so we'll keep pushing on them, and we'll ramp back up here in the coming this week.
And then just so the commission is aware, we have had some customers, we've gotten to our 3rd notification process, which means that the letter now indicates that if we're unable to schedule a time to replace it, there will be in the future a meter reading charge, which the commission approved about a year ago. That has gotten some attention, so people call up and we're like, hey, great, happy to get you scheduled in and stuff. So we are on our 3rd round of notifications for some.
You're getting ready to start that. So
Yeah.
the second notice, or what we're calling the second notice, as kind of say threat, but has that included in there. If you don't get to this point or don't get it taken care of in the future, there's going to be a charge.
I see that on Facebook.
You know, so I mean, it's gotten. Nobody got the first letter, of course, apparently. So
No.
Yeah, to get the second. Nobody noticed that, so.
So, but that's continuing to go good. Shane is at Minnesota Rural Water training today and yesterday, and then he'll be taking his Class D water operating license with the Department of Health tomorrow. So hopefully that's going good for him. We've been continuing to try to keep up on the road up by 12th and 7th up there. We had that main break. This weather just isn't helping us to keep the gravel in that patch there. It was too late to get any mix in there, so we're kind of having to babysit that this winter. So it hasn't been a lot. We've been up there a couple times with the skid loader and adding a little gravel here as it's gotten pounded out. So keeping an eye on that. Snow plowing, inventory, and then his monthly testing and stuff. So.
Any questions for Mr. Schmidt? Thank you. Thank you both. Jack, I'm going to call on you to give the city update, please.
Okay, and I just was aware of this when I walked in the door, so threw me in a fire right away.
Yeah, a good meeting so far.
Okay, I did read through this once already, so I hope I don't stammer too bad. I ended up double booking myself today, so please extend my apologies and pass on the following updates on my behalf. Okay, our new accountant, Lynn Hoheisel, as I'm guessing how you pronounce it, started Tuesday, January 17th, so we have that in common. We started a new employee. I'm pleased that she accepted the position and look forward to unloading some of the financial duties from my desk to hers. And just a little side note, I was in City Hall yesterday morning booking some Civic Center dates for the Legion. It was 9-ish probably, and I got to meet her. Her desk was empty, and I assured her it probably wouldn't be that way very long. So So I got to meet her and Ashley, so. The City Council approved execution of the Small Cities Grant Agreement for the 7th Avenue County State Highway 4 project. The assigned agreement has been sent and received by deed. WSB is working through the required environmental tasks, and we will then receive approval to spend money. Staff is coordinating a meeting between Pat Briggs and Steve Haig. Pat is on phase 3 and 4 of the apartments on First Street, and Steve is purchasing the old hangar lots, which would be on 21st Avenue. So I feel like they're working together. We need to coordinate final access points and looping of utilities. You guys are probably aware of that, I would imagine. A 2-lot plat is being proposed on West Branch Street across from the townhomes. This is new to me, but part of the plat will reserve the right-of-way for an extension of 13th Street. The city is swapping some land it owns to make the project happen. Staff is reviewing all of the land that the city owns to determine if they can be placed back on tax rolls. Community Development Planner Stacey Markford is spearheading this project. There will be spin-off work to clean up the real estate holdings of the city. I think that's a positive. Staff is working on all the various year-end and year-beginning tasks. I anticipate starting to work on audit preparation by the end of the month. They appointed the city the same auditor we have. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I think it just happened at the last meeting, didn't it? Or was it before that?
I thought you reported that last.
Yeah, I think that was
Did she?
last
Okay.
month.
Okay. So anyway, that's done. I guess. So, it sounds like, well, they're not doing it yet, but the impression I got, they were looking forward to it. Okay, on a somber note, Chief Frederick's mother passed away yesterday, January 17th, after a very brief hospital stay. As service information becomes available, I will pass it on to you. So that's that. I don't know his family to do that. So. And I apologize again for being unable to attend today.
What was Hoheis's first name?
Lynn. L-Y-N.
Lynn.
Is she married to Bob? Anyone?
I didn't recognize her as anybody I know. I only said hi to her.
Yeah, I know Bob Hoheisel, that's why it just doesn't mean anything different, but thank you, Commissioner Higgins. Mr. Butcher. your update,
Yes,
please.
sir. On the administrative side, we're working on our 2022 year-end activities, getting all that wrapped up, and then launching our 2023 beginning of the year activities. So it's keeping us pretty busy. As you folks met, Ashley Josie started on Tuesday, so we're getting her trained in. We're continuing to document the documentation of our internal process and procedures. Recently, we did have a customer inquiry about a medical necessary equipment form. In the past, we just typically get a letter from a licensed medical professional. But there is some information in statute that needs to be collected, so we went ahead and put together a form that the customer can sign and have the licensed medical professional sign at the same time. And that ensures that everything meets our statutory requirements and the customer statutory requirements. Just so the commission knows what that means is somebody who has life-sustaining equipment or is has a medical emergency, if they submit this form to us, if we do any planned outages, we reach out to them personally before the planned outage, just so that they can prepare. Obviously, we can't control storms. It doesn't guarantee that they're never going to go out without power, but at least for the planned maintenance activities that we do, we can give them a notification on that. And it's only good for 6 months, so it has to be renewed semi-annually. But put that together just so that we can document everything properly. Did work with the PCA to give DGR access to our e-services account so we can begin our air permit work. Travis Zip, our contractor, will start on that either this month or next month. And then we're hoping to start some CSR interviews closer to the end of the month. For energy efficiency programs, we did issue rebates to Fantastic Sam's and the Verizon store, so we're continuing to get participants there. And it is the beginning of regulatory season for me. So I typically spend the first 6 months of the year just trying to keep track and report everything that we need to all our local, state, and federal agencies. So far we've already completed the SIPA Schedule 1, which is our O&M contract. Scott pointed out that Jim has taken care of our air permit filings, which includes the DRF1, 2, and CRO4 filings. And then we did submit our APPA reliability data as well. Next up for us, with some deadlines from January 31st through February, is we do have an MPARS report, an OSHA report, a DER report, an EI report, so a lot of data crunching, a lot of filling out a lot of forms. So that will take up a lot of activity for the office for the next few months. In terms of our customer programs, we did send out our mission renew letters on January 13th. We did have 20 customers fill out an interest form, so we sent off the actual numbers to them. They have until February 3rd to confirm that they do want to participate, and for those that do, we will have SIPA retire the necessary recs by May 1st. As Michelle had made it in her notes, we have been working with the City of Princeton on a few different projects. We did hold our first joint safety training meeting with the city on January 5th. We've approved the topics. All parties have gotten together to approve this year's topics, and we verified dates and locations for the first half of the year. So I think all that's going pretty smoothly. I've shared information with the city engineer regarding our tie line on the 7th Street 4th Avenue project, just as the city moves forward on that, and we make sure we collaborate that, or that we're collaborating that with our cap plan as well, so that those projects help each other instead of getting in each other's way. And then I was at a city council meeting and found out that the city is looking at leasing some space on their new cell tower by City Hall. They were looking at potentially working with a contractor. However, I let the city council know that that's something that we do all the time on our end. We have a lot of telecoms on our water towers where we lease space. So I offered to work with city staff to see how much they could do on their own and not have a third party involved, and hopefully increase revenues for the city. So I'll be working with staff on that. For MMUA, we did have our Government Relations Advisory Group meeting on Friday. There are 3 major bills at the legislature right now, just so folks are aware. The first one is Senate File 4, House File 7. It's called a 100% carbon-free standard. In addition to expanding the renewable energy standard to 55% by 2035, and put this in context, we're at 20% right now under the old RES. So they want to increase the RES to 55 by 2035. But they're also including a carbon-free standard of 100% by 2040. That's got some utilities a little confused as to how exactly we're going to do that. In conversations that I've heard with the authors, it's really looking at trying to create a market-based rec program at the wholesale level, kind of like the old cap and trade, if anybody's familiar with that. The co-ops and the cooperatives and municipalities are very concerned in what that would mean for reliability of prices. Generally speaking, the IOUs seem to be either neutral or supportive of that. So it's kind of splitting along those lines. Given that there's one-party control at St. Paul right now, the DFL is actually expected to pass this bill out of both the House and the Senate perhaps this week, get it on the governor's desk, and have him sign it by the end of the month. So that's pretty fast compared to most legislation. And you know, there are a lot of questions being raised. Basically, one of the comments I heard through another party was, what's the big deal? We've got 17 years to figure it out. As a utility, we plan for decades, so I think there's going to be some talk over time about exit ramps and things like that. But generally speaking, it looks like that bill's looking like it's probably going to pass, and that's going to create a lot of conversations, I will say, on the utility side. It's how to actually do that and still maintain the level of service that our customers expect. The second file is House File 49. They're looking at doing a new requirement to require an annual report on utility efforts to increase diversity in the workplace, which will also filter over into utilities using, and I'm not sure what the proper word is as a catch-all, but female-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, and small business enterprises to make sure that utilities are looking at that issue as well. And then the third major piece of legislation right now that's been proposed is Senate File 41, which is a Carbon Assessment and Dividend Act. This one's really got some teeth to it. The way it's written at the moment, starting January 1st of 2024, a $50 per ton adder for every ton of carbon dioxide emitted by any generation in the state will be assessed. That will increase by $5 per year and is capped at $200 per ton. That's going to have a significant impact on electricity costs in the state. So, see where that goes. The funds then would be allocated for such thing as energy efficiency rebates and promotion of renewable technology. So there's a lot of energy stuff going on right now, just wanted to make sure the commission was aware of that. It is that time of year where MMUA has their legislative conference. That is next week. Chair Schwartz and I will be attending that one, and we'll be sure to talk to our elected officials as much as we can and find out what they're thinking and what they're hearing and see where they think all of this is going. At the conference, I will actually be I'm also sitting on a panel. As folks know, I've been part of a delegation with MMUA to do some outreach to the cooperatives, and so MREA, which is the Minnesota Renewable Electric Association, Minnesota Rural Electric Association. We're doing a joint panel. So on that panel will be 2 representatives from the municipals and 2 from the co-ops. Vernell Roberts from Detroit Lakes and myself will represent the municipals, and then Scott Reimer and Ryan Henches will be representing the co-op. So we're hoping to just have a discussion and try to encourage and find ways that municipals and cooperatives can work together on those areas of common interest that we have. So we'll continue to do that. Yeah, that's what I got for right now.
Okay.
They're keeping me busy.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher.
Here, can I back up to the cell tower thing for
Yes,
just a
sir.
minute? We'll put my city hat on for just a brief second here. We had a pretty good discussion about that, and then, I won't go to a long history here, but it was so nice when Mr. Butcher stepped into that with his input. And that's just a perfect example of how these 2 entities can work together for such positive things. I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I would like to just, again, welcome Chrissy to this meeting. I also feel that I'm not asking for a motion or anything, but just to add Chrissy to the updates.
Oh, yes, sir. That.
So
Yes.
if we can go A, B, C, and then the city, and then your updates for next time. So it'll be listed that way. Do you have any comments or updates for us at this point?
I can.
You're up.
So we just had Ashley start yesterday. She's doing phenomenal at this point. We haven't scared her off. I've had her doing things within our system, and she's picking them up right away and kind of just taking it and running with it, which has been really great to see. So we do have door hangers going out next week, Monday. Our disconnect will be next Wednesday. Next week, we will also be doing billing. So Ashley and I are going to do that together. Should be a pretty seamless process. Other than that, all of our penalties have been added from the bills due on the 12th. And things seem to be going good. So.
Good. Any questions?
I have none.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so 8, electric capital improvements plan, memo 2304.
Yes, sir. Memo 2304 in your packets. It's there's two parts to it. There is an engagement letter, so that Princeton Public Utilities and Northland Securities so Northland can start assisting us in preparing the preliminary financing scenarios, working with DGR and cash flow modeling for the upcoming projects that we have in line. I will point out that signing the engagement letter does not obligate the utilities to work with Northland or to issue revenue bonds on our behalf. It's merely to start, just to make sure that there's that relationship there. I will also point out that we have worked with Northland for years. Northland also does a lot of work with the city, so they're a known factor for us. George Eilertson, who has been here, he went through some of the, when we prepaid on the bonds, he was here to talk about that, so that's his organization. So they would like to have an engagement letter signed so that we can continue that relationship for the CAP plan. In addition, again, as we try to coordinate our cash flow modeling and what DGR has done for us on the rate side with the timing of the bonding and the financing on the Northland Security side of things, we are also requesting an allocation of $5,000 to DGR's Phase 1 Task Order Number 3, which has already been gone through prior commission approval, that will allow that work to continue as well. Again, that activity is to help determine the amount and timing of a bond issuance for Phase 1. So we're requesting really two parts to that. You could do it in one motion if you wanted to, or you could do them separate, but just the approval of the engagement letter and then a decision on the allocation of funding for the coordination of financing plans between DGR, Northland, and us.
Any questions on that, Commission?
Part of the substance, the reason that we should do it in two motions? Or?
No, I just let you can, if you, it's up to the commission's discretion. You can do it as one. You can just approve the memo as submitted if you want and take care of everything.
I just want to make sure we don't put ourselves in an awkward position down the road somewhere if we don't do it properly the first time. Or...
No, I don't think so. But if that's a concern, we can easily do it.
Well, it's not a concern really, it's just a thought. I guess.
Yeah. Part of the reason I've written the memos in the way that I do is so that the commission can just approve the memo as filed if there's no concerns.
Would that be the proper motion then?
It would keep things clean on our end, yeah.
Then I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have the first and second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. B, 2023 rate postponement.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Memorandum 2305 describes, as we've kind of talked about here, in the office we have been short-staffed for the last 4 weeks. Bringing in a new billing clerk has been great. We're super excited. I think we're going to accomplish a lot of great things. She did just start yesterday, and then with higher than normal workloads anyway because of end of the year activities and beginning of the year activities, on top of all of that, to launch a new rate structure during the new billing clerk's first week and a half of employment is becoming challenging. This is a new rate structure, a new rate design that we're introducing to our customers. We at the office obviously want to make sure that it's done correctly. I would prefer not to launch something when without us being assured that it's going to work properly, and with the being short-staffed and training in a new person, it would just seem prudent to delay the implementation of the new 2023 rates until next month. So staff is requesting a delay in the implementation of the new rates for until February.
I'll make a motion to delay that rate restructure until February.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. I have a question, Mr. Butcher, on some action. It looks like we physically have to agree to, the paper and the banks. Do we not?
That was in the consent agenda.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Do you sign that, or does the chair sign that?
Resolutions. Yes, I have all the paperwork here for the resolutions. We typically have the chair sign that, so I do have that for you after the
Stick
meeting.
around for that.
Yes, sir.
Any other business? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
And I do want to get a picture of you guys before you take off.
You survived.